Are we rolling? Hey, hi. I'm Linda Kay Gifford, and I am here to help you and my coaching students. I don't like to call you that. My friends, people I talk to, through these troubled waters. You know, it's not just like hard enough to be survivors of childhood sexual abuse or any kind of abuse, or to live with PTSD. We get to watch the news every day, and we get to watch a society that used to feel like it was improving. At least in my opinion, I feel like I'm watching human rights crumble away. And as I watch human rights crumble away, I watch women's rights crumble away, because women's rights are human rights. When we have women fighting against equality in the name of religious freedom, and I mean, just nonsense. It's frightening. It's frightening. Anyway, I'm Linda Kay Gifford. I'm a lot of things. I founded feelgoodfairtrade.com, and we're about to hit our 4th anniversary. Please support us. We support women artisans all over the world. I often forget to check my volume, and it's often down. So let me take a moment here and do that. I recently founded the Sweet Survivor Rescue Fund, which is awaiting its nonprofit status, but raising money right now on GoFundMe and Facebook pages by that name, Sweet Survivor Rescue Fund. SWEET stands for Survivors Will End Earth's Trafficking. And as a survivor of years and years of childhood sexual abuse, it's important to me that you realize that people who are in trouble need to get out of trouble. And that's the number one thing. Number one, they need transportation. And there are many good programs out there, and there are people starting to get wise and try to provide that transportation, and got Navy SEAL groups that will go out to rescue people and whatnot. But we need a consistent nationwide, global-wide, ultimately, dream big, but that's what I want to do. When I had COVID in November, my son asked me, my 16-year-old, when we were truly frightened, I got very sick. But before I got very sick even, he said, well, if you were going to die in 2 weeks, what would you do? And I knew that my dream of Sweet Survivor Rescue Fund would have to exist and be solid. And I had it on paper. I bought the .com already. I had all that lined up, and I was working on it as a collection and raising money for it at my store, feelgoodfairtrade.com. But I decided at that point, well, if I'm going to die potentially within a couple of weeks, Sweet Survivor must live. And so in the couple of days it took me to get really sick, because in 3 days I had pneumonia, I finalized Sweet Survivor. And I appreciate your donations. And I keep saying this the last couple live streams, but soon I will have a subscription available where you can subscribe for as low as $5 a month, like if you were doing for, a lot of you probably donate to Act Blue. I do. I donate to all kinds of people on Act Blue, through Act Blue, who handle monthly subscriptions. So we're going to do that, and we're going to help people. So thank you for that. Thank you for helping me have the life that I want, which is we don't have a lot of money, but we have so much love. I'm not in a field that makes money. I'm in a field that moves money. And help me move it, will you? I need a pause for a blackberry seltzer. Blackberry seltzer, a little bit of lemon juice, and I did throw a shot of vodka in there. And only one with a very large amount of seltzer, because you know what? We all have our vices. Nobody's perfect. I'm not trying to be a perfect person. I tell my kids, I don't expect you to be perfect. I just expect you to fuck up responsibly. So if you do something wrong, do it wrong responsibly. Okay? Try to be really good. But trying to raise perfect people Well, for one thing, what's a perfect person? I mean, oh God, I was watching a Facebook thing. It was a Laura Bell Bundy, and it was one of her funny, like, songs. It was "You Can't Pray the Gay Away," and it was great. It was hilarious, but it led into a more serious roll of clips that I went down that, they say rabbit hole, but not a bad thing. Learned a little. And there was a family being interviewed as to why they were forcing their gay son to camp to try to change his behavior and stuff. And it was just mindless. And it just scares me. I literally taught my children, not taught, but I mean, I made it clear just by not specifying anything. I think that a person should look at other people as people and not worry about what's in their pants. You can work with what's in their pants later in whatever manner you wish to, should it be friendship or more. But I just think human beings should start at the point of looking at each other as people. And some people, I lead into that because one of the things I'm most often slammed for is that I don't understand God and the purpose of God's purpose for everybody. And that's what this father was saying. He was like, well, his son, he's struggling right now. And they're like, well, what's he struggling with? He doesn't appear to be struggling. He's just gay. And he's like, no, he's struggling because he doesn't understand that God has a purpose for him. And they're like, well, what is God's purpose for him? And he says, well, to be a husband and a father. And I see him, and it's like, he looks like this miserable man. I guess he's got a wife, but I mean, all this, I think a lot of this power trip is just forcing people to stay in situations they don't like. Why would you spend a lifetime with a dude like that? His wife probably couldn't wait to get away. And he looks like he's none too happy either. But it's like they take it like it's a sentence. Well, I took the death sentence, so my children have to also sentence themselves to a life of servitude, to something they cannot see. And that doesn't mean I don't think things we can't see aren't there. I think that you get to have your own opinion about that as long as you keep it to yourself when it comes to the law and other people. That's what I think. I don't want to think that there's nothing. I don't want to just be dead and gone. I don't know. Maybe I'll be dead and gone. That's easy, at least. I won't be pining away lonely in some, what if it's a work camp? What if, I don't mean hell. What if just everybody goes to somebody else's universal work camp in another dimension that's learned how to mine ours and catch people right at the point of death and take their soul? You never know what's next. So that's why I want to make this life good. That's why family member who yet again accosted me, that I will not hide what happened to me. That's why I find purpose every day. Some people are just happy without a purpose. Some people think it's wrong and sick of me that I need one. I'm not ashamed to say I feel the need to have a purpose. I think part of it is because I'd like to think everybody feels that, but maybe a lot of people are like, oh, you just deserve it because you're alive. And I don't feel like anybody deserves anything. I don't feel like they don't deserve anything either. I feel, and as for someone who fights for human rights, that may sound weird. I don't believe anybody deserves anything. So let me clarify. Because someone's going to take that clip and run with it and try to ruin me, but it won't work because I just don't give a shit. Clarify. A purpose. My purpose isn't divinely given. My purpose is something that I use just like I used God and the God Force as a tool, not a requirement, not a judgment, not a set of rules, nothing divine, don't believe in any of that. But the God force is something I choose to define so that I can use it. Just like I was having this conversation with my partner just the other night, how measurements and symbols, he was turning, I gotta back up. My partner showed me the Cistercian alphabet. It was really cool. So then I had an hour, so I learned it. And it's like a way of writing numbers. You know, it's somewhere. It's a way of writing numbers on one axis, essentially. So here's like my over and over working with my Cistercian numerals. So this led to a conversation on that, you know, by about the fourth time I could do it. It's really quite interesting. And I just like that kind of stuff. Fascinates me. So, so does language. Language, every sound I utter is just a symbol for something that we worked out over millennia. Over millennia, we worked out all these ways to identify this syllable and that syllable and string them together. And language is really quite remarkable, and so is math, and so is music, and all of them interrelate, especially math and music. But there is also math to relationships. There is also math to life and society. And where am I going with this? I'm not even sure anymore. But yes, I am. Okay, it's just complex systems. The system is not broken. It was just never tweaked properly. We're still EQing the system. We must continue to tweak the system until everybody that lives in the world, has a roof over their head and food and equal medical attention and the opportunity to be whoever they want to be and study, and transportation and media need to be universally accessible. Only then do the haves and the have-nots not really exist. Only then can everybody have the baseline of things that are required to live a good life. And so society, not as a give, not as a, you're a ne'er-do-well, so we're just going to pick you up and carry you along and we're carrying the weight of you, nothing like that. Just society as the baseline of decency must adopt, don't you think, the policy that nobody's left behind. Okay, if they can't walk, we'll get them a stretcher. If they can't work, we'll figure out something they can do. If they can't do anything, well, how much does it cost to just maintain somebody that's just doesn't want to do anything anyway? I mean, that's easy. Come on. There's plenty to go around. Look at the world right now. Oh my God, back to the news. Back to the news, never was at the news. I'm going to be all over the news pretty soon, though, because Representative Gates is my personal trigger right now, and why I'm going to be like, I'm trying not to start thumping things already. But let's just examine a few things that have happened. I took this last week to, my son came in from Rapid City, and he graduated college at the engineering school there, and he's working, just got his first job, and him and his partner came in, and it was wonderful to see them. And so I've taken the week, and I've made notes and all, but I haven't been it's been basically a vacation, and it still is. It still is until the weekend. But I did make notes of the news, of course, and I see that Arkansas bans trans kids from getting needed medical support. How can they do that? How can you be so cold? And even the governor, who has in the past supported basically limiting human rights for LGBTQIA community members and trans people and trans children specifically, even in this case, he vetoed, and then he was like, this is getting too, we're stepping into people's lives too far here. So he vetoed this. So that was a shocking Republican governor move to do the right thing. But it didn't matter because the state legislature state legislature of Arkansas overturned his veto. So what happens is, y'all gonna get canceled. Everybody gets canceled. Cancel culture, as we call it now, which, like I said last time, I never liked the term. I considered it a Republican construct. And now it's a thing. And so I've appropriated it and say, yes, right back at you. You are correct. We are going to cancel. So, how's that Coca-Cola ban working out for you? And Delta, are you really suffering greatly? I think that Republicans better, actually, I don't care what they do. Implode. Just implode. Do it. That's so easy. It's so easy for you to implode. But the thing is that I still am a human being with a heart. I have decency and I have a heart. And you have children and you have elderly and you have, some of you are just kindly in some way, but brainwashed. I can't even hardly argue that one anymore. I used to want to say that, but y'all had your chance to be decent people. So now 57% of Republicans say that they don't want to get the vaccine. Isn't it like tomorrow or within the next few days, 50% of America will have had the vaccine? 57% of Republicans, however, say they won't get it. 47% of Trump supporters, which is interesting. That shows you that the wealthy Trump supporters are like, oh yeah, we're all over the vaccine. And indeed, they stole the opportunity to have the vaccine, had their expensive pop-up vaccination clinics in bitty-twitty areas. Oh, we were just reaching the elderly. Yeah. Is it true that not one vaccine has gotten to Haiti? I believe not one vaccine has gotten to Haiti yet. They're dying with no vaccine. And even as much as we're vaccinating Americans, we're almost at 50%. And yet our death count rises. And it's amongst Republicans and those they are killing that are not fully vaccinated yet. Fortunately, most of us are getting close to the point. Once we finish getting the children, my son and I just got vaccinated Sunday for the first time. Thank you. I cried. I burst into tears. I did not think that would happen, but I felt so grateful because I had COVID and my son in November, and I had to have 2 antibiotics simultaneously, strong ones, and a steroid to barely be able to continue breathing. It was frightening. Without Western medicine, I'd be dead. So I didn't feel it. I was excited when I went and all, but then when I got that shot, I literally started crying. She's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I'm just so happy." And then I told her, when you get to the point that you're giving your passwords to your kids, I'm very grateful to be vaccinated, and I'm very grateful that it means we can start having a life again, doing things that I want to do and love. But I'm going to wear my mask. I'm going to wait for the science to explain who is still vulnerable, and, I don't want to be a carrier. But yeah, that first vaccination. So if it starts with 888, it can wait till tomorrow. Or next month. Or eternity, perhaps. Shout out again to Chris Cuomo. You did it again. Motherfucker, what is wrong with you? I was nice the first time. I said, oh, there's a learning curve, whatever. But come on. Stop calling 17-year-old children who are women. I said that. Stop calling 17-year-old children who are girls women. He's like, oh, these 17-year-old women. You're being appalled at Representative Gates, but shooting yourself in the foot by showing that somehow in your mind and other people's minds, you guys can confuse 17-year-olds with women. I don't even see how an 18-year-old can be considered a woman. That's just because men want them to be. I don't think anybody under 22 should be considered capable of marrying or making those kind of decisions. That's insanity. At least give them to 20. You know, I said in my last live stream, it's been a while, it's been a week ago, I was like, teenagers make terrible decisions. So we have made a legal precedence, a law that says, at least if you're going to make a terrible teenage decision, you've got to be 18 years old to do it. But still, like Representative Gates, this is my personal trigger, and what I'm really going to try not to just start shouting about because I'm so pissed off. This one hurts me to the core. This one makes me want to break things or cry, but I won't cry. I would rather break things. So I'm like writing that point in my mind. And yeah, that's what survivors do. Yeah, so those of my haters that are like, you just crazy. You shouldn't be coaching anyone. I got those messages too. You know what? Fuck off. You're not my audience, okay? I don't care about you, what you have to say. Surviving is a thing that is done every day. It's not a graduation. I have tips on how to survive every day. I don't have tips on how to completely be fine now, good, because you know what? That's not a thing. Nobody survives. Nobody goes to war and kills people. Nobody has any kind of PTSD and comes out of it okay, ever, again. But then that doesn't mean that you're screwed up forever either. And that's where I get upset with the whole pill scene and the whole medical scene where people are like, you need to be like this, you need to feel like this. We're all going to feel all over the place all the time. The idea is to recognize that that is how human existence is. That's perfectly normal. That no matter how bad you think you've had it, no matter how bad I think I've had it, and I've expounded on it, and I will continue to do so, writing my book and in my lawsuit. But there are many who've had it worse. But the deal is, it's not a competition. It's not a competition. Everybody's level of pain and endurance is their own. I guess some of us, like when you get heavier levels of endurance heaped upon you, you learn to endure heavier levels, but you're still enduring, no matter whether it's a bad relationship with your parents or being, raped every day. You're still enduring. Don't diminish anybody else's experience, and for God's sake, don't diminish your own, whatever it is. So it doesn't matter who had it worse than anybody else. Get that competition thing out of your mind. So again, Cuomo's underage women, Cuomo, Chris, underage and women are mutually exclusive terms to go at least together in a phrase, in the same sentence, replying to the same person. If you're underage, then you are at least a girl. I would prefer child, female child. And this is particularly sticky for me, and I guess why it's such a huge trigger for me, and I'm still talking about it. 3 live streams in, I'm still, the Gates story keeps growing. I mean, so let me precurse where I'm going with this. I've always said, the shame is not yours. You have to get rid of that. You have to separate the past from the present. And I've also said, just like a minute ago, it's a process that you do every day. And this is one of them. And this is one of them. Because part of the time that I was being the most physically abused. I mean, is there a most? When I was younger, I wasn't being outright raped. I was being groomed to be raped. By the time I was being raped, I was older, and that's the point where some people are like, well, you should know better. Well, you were culpable in this situation somehow. But it's one thing to grab a 14-year-old and rape them. It's another thing to culture them to endure your physical touch and advances and demands from the time they're 10 or 11 to where the separation occurs. And it's a PTSD thing. It's not just for sexual abuse, but I think it's super prevalent in physical and sexual abuse situations. I mean, I know it is. I've studied this. I'm not a doctor, but I play one on Facebook. No, I'm not playing a doctor. And now I digress because it's so heavy that I'm having a hard time getting there. So it's hard for me because that was me. That was my reality. And I didn't make a decision not to tell. Telling never occurred to me. So when someone's talking about 17 and 16-year-olds and calling them women, they're implying that they are of the age of consent. And even if they are not consenting, that's not consent. Going along with the program as you understand it to be, despite the fact that you are miserable, and that's brainwashing. That's why it's called grooming, because we didn't have an opportunity to make decisions. Our minds were literally split. For me, as I've cited in my book, I literally split in my head and heart into people that could handle it. There's a part of me that is a child, that's a little girl that just shuts up and obeys. There's a part of me that is an enraged teenage boy that instead of winning, that makes the little girl not kill herself. And if you want to read about that, it's my book, Self-Talk. The first 7 chapters are pinned to the top of this page, the Linda Kay Gifford Self-Talk. I don't even know what the name of the page is anymore. I'm trying to change it and merge. I'm trying to merge with Those Nasty Women, but they're not letting me yet. Facebook has like rules and they're not letting me. So I might ask you guys like from Those Nasty Women to migrate over, because we've kind of all become the same thing with the Sweet Survivor Rescue Fund, So back to Gates. Yeah. I will work every day to make sure that people realize teenagers involved in sexual situations with older people, especially if that older person has been doing this for years to them or grooming them for it, it's not your fault. You're not disgusting. You were not of an age of consent. And I didn't get that myself until my friends, Tom and Melissa, you guys, your daughters, when they were very young and they came out to the farm, and I was just talking gardening with Maddie, and I was like, she was like 9 and 10-ish, and her sister was like 11, 12, and I was looking at them, and I'm like, anything that they did, maybe they were like 11, 13, anything they did, if someone put them in a situation that was physical and sexual, I was like, I would kill that motherfucker. I would never even consider blaming those 2 girls. And then I realized that I was that girl. And I've been fighting hard to make that shame not mine ever since. And I'll never be able to tell you I feel good about it inside, everything's honky-dory, but I will tell you I'm mostly awesome. I mostly feel great every day, and I'll ride these triggers out just like everybody rides out the ones in their lives, whether they have to do with abuse of any kind, or war, or neglect, or just loneliness, or whatever. We're all in this together. So back to the top of society. I get questioned and I get called by people in my hometown. That's so funny. A girl I grew up with who was in my class who was like the one that abused me, which I really like to like cite her out now, because now it's like, now I have a it's hilarious fuck you stance. Now I get to have thousands of people laugh at you with me, Chris. And I'm a dirty, rotten commie. I'm a communist because I want to give people escaping violence homes, because I support women all over the world in their artisan communities and families with my store, feelgoodfairtrade.com. I'm a communist because I think we should have educational opportunity to the level you want to do it. If someone is motivated enough to go to school, I mean, do you think if everyone had the opportunity to go to school, they'd all become doctors? No. We're still going to have everything. But why not make it easy for the people driven and talented to get where we need them to be to support us in society? You bitch about immigrating all the Indian doctors and whatever, which I don't have a problem with. I love people from everywhere. But I mean, even if you're making an asshole Republican conservative argument, wouldn't it make sense then to provide, I mean, rather than just demand that nobody have abortions and every child be born and then do it, fuck you, you know, you get yours in this life or not, depending on who you're born to, whatever. It's like, really, wouldn't it just make sense, even for your own agenda, even for your own conservative agenda, to have the talented people that are willing to go through the schoolwork to do so and then become productive members of society, both giving and taking and contributing? Duh. So Governor DeSantis bans, moving on. Governor DeSantis bans vaccine passports, I wrote down. And at the same time, like in Tampa, the Center for the Arts, of course, the progressive community, the Center for the Arts are like, we don't want to risk death allowing people in here. And the governor's banning them from forcing people, it shouldn't have to be forced, but forcing people to wear a mask. So I want this explained to me. I really do. Okay, so the thought process amongst conservatives who at least believe that there's a pandemic and believe that a mask helps, but still don't think you should have one. Their reasoning for that is that it, it reduces individual freedoms, that it would make classes of people based on whether they're vaccinated or not. We would divide into classes. So we'd be saying some of you are vaccinated, some of you are not. Yes, I agree. Not seeing a bad thing here yet. And in doing so, in making two classes of people, those who are vaccinated and those who are not, it would reduce individuals' freedoms to travel and do things that people who are vaccinated would do. But they don't specify that. It would reduce individuals' freedoms. It's like, well, bingo, yeah, we want to cancel individual freedom to kill everybody else because you're a fucking moron or mean or stupid or mythology-based or think you're tough, or I have no idea why any sane, reasonable person has a problem with this. Yeah, I do. It's education. I know why. That's a stupid thing to say. It's education. It always comes down to education. We have to educate. Because like I always say, we just can't kill them all. They're doing a good job by themselves, though. Michigan, hey, way to go. Most of the Democrats are vaccinated. Half the state's vaccinated, but the death count's still going up. Why are you killing yourselves? At least we're close to having all of our elderly medical people, anybody who wants the vaccine, and children vaccinated. But what about the children of the anti-vaxxers who used to be Democrats? With my kids, I had like the doctor withhold vaccine lots in a refrigerator with my kid's name on it. And then I would run that lot number through the National Vaccine Research Institute. Thank you. Shout out to Jessica Rigney, my friend and doula and midwife and a yogi master and a filmmaker and a writer and a really wonderful person. Jessica Rigney, also back when I was pregnant with John, introduced me to the National Vaccine Research. And so it's a great thing. You can utilize it. You can run the lot number, and there are sometimes, usually they're all fine, but sometimes you'll find a lot that has more reactions proportionally than the others. So do not use that one. Simple. If that's being an overprotective mother, I'll take it. I'll wear that. I'll wear that mama bear hat. But, basically, if I have to, what was it? The other person said, it was a bar owner, restaurant bar owner. And he's like, well, the mask mandate would hurt us, he's saying, but it has to be diplomatic. He's in Texas. And he's like, we just have to, hopefully people will do the right thing and not risk other people's lives. And I'm like, really? And you could see when he said that, just like, it's like, if that was the case, none of this would be happening. If that was the case, there would be no argument. There would be no ban anywhere, any state on mask wearing. So you know what? I'm going to take the law. I'm going to take a law forcing people to do it, theoretically, over that. Last Tuesday, I went to vote. And I walk in, and nobody's got masks on. It's a VFW hall. There's a bar, and then there's a middle room where they're having, like, I don't know, chicken dinner, fish dinner, some kind of dinner. I always have some kind of dinner there. And then the polling room. And I'm like, okay, people eating don't have masks on. And I glance into the bar. I'm like, okay, they're not wearing masks either, morons. But at least I'm going that way into the polling room. Go in there. Under the chins, almost no one had a mask on. One woman who was very nice and told me she agreed with me, right? She was brave enough to say it in front of everybody. And I was like, excuse me? And I just look at them, and everyone looks at me and goes about their business. And I just I get a relatively central position and say to the entire all three rooms, actually, that they need to put their masks on. I'm like, excuse me? You are election officials, theoretically. Put your mask on. I want to vote. And they wouldn't. And then the one woman, she's like head under her nose. And I said, it doesn't count if it's under your nose. And she's like, well, it irritates me, whatever. I'm like, I don't care. It's the law. And I'm like, I'll call the police then. And they just looked at me. And I did. So I called the police. Called the police on the polling place. And the police told me, well, you can file a complaint with the election board, whatever. I'm like, file a complaint? I want a goddamn vote. It's a half an hour till the polls close. I've got 25 minutes till the polls close, and I want to vote without risking my life. Well, yeah, I had COVID in November, so somebody could be like, oh, it's a moot point, whatever. It is the principle of the thing. It is the point that still I don't want to risk picking up and bringing it home to somebody. My son's friend Adam is here a lot, and he hasn't had COVID yet. We're still very careful. We still wear masks. We're reasonable adults. And if you can't be a reasonable adult, then I don't think your vote counts. I don't think you should have one. And that's the other question that I was going to answer for the third time tonight. So you don't believe in democracy? I believe in democracy if the people involved are all educated. But if the point and the day comes, like they're not so stupid that they kill each other off with a pandemic that they refuse to protect themselves against. I mean, if the day comes that they can possibly outvote the people who understand the natural laws of physics and science and realize that religion is a personal choice, if they can destroy the planet, our habitat, and the human rights of others, then that is the point I will not believe in democracy. Right now, I wholeheartedly believe in democracy. That is why I'm here. That is why I'm doing this. That is why I wear this hat. Yeah. So, fight for democracy with me. Fight for democracy for yourself. We didn't win anything. We are clinging onto the back of a runaway freight train right now, progressives. The runaway freight train of mythology and bullshit and crap. My God, you know what I did this afternoon? I laid out on a chaise, going over my notes, listening to the news, but then I drifted to Russell Brand. Yeah, you know the world is in crisis when Russell Brand is your new guru, who I was literally doing yoga and breathing exercises with today. I do. You know what? He said something. He said, he said, maybe the mind is closer to a radio than an engine. Maybe it receives information, and divine beings and prophets are more like channels. Maybe there's a pool of information. Maybe not. Who knows? Just like I said, maybe there's an afterlife. Maybe not. Maybe there's all kinds of them. Maybe it depends on who sucks you out of the void at that moment. Maybe there's a bona fide heaven. I don't know. But I do know that this is the life I have now. And for God's sake, I'm going to protect everyone's right to live it how they want to. And I am going to try to protect every human being from the abuse of others. That is all that matters to me, to my dying fucking day. So I will not be here tomorrow because tomorrow I'm going to have a hospital procedure. I have long hauler COVID syndrome. I've already had a brain CAT scan for strange neurological effects that I continue to have. And tomorrow I'm having an abdominal CT. So it's like a several hour thing. So I don't think I'll be here tomorrow night, but I will let you know how it all turns out very soon. Take care.